Our family witnessed protests in New York City where the crowd chanted, "Globalize the intifada." And my kids are scared. So how can I explain what is happening without causing too much fear, especially since we are also scared?
So I would say that's the first issue. It sounds like mom and dad are very, very anxious, which makes it hard for them to create a sense of safety for their children because they themselves do not feel safe. I think the growth of anti-Semitism, the rapid growth and expression of anti-Semitism in America is very scary, I think, for many people, primarily because it took people sort of by surprise. Not that it is surprising, but more that it's been so vocal and so out there, especially in the wake of what we have experienced as Jews as one of the worst attacks on Jews since the Holocaust. So it seems a little, again, this is this piece of the cognitive confusion where this doesn't make sense to me. Why am I being attacked if I was the one who was attacked? It doesn't make sense. People should be supporting me. Why are people hating me? And so your brain tries to make sense of this. And in that space of not being able to make sense of it, it starts getting worried that something wrong must be happening if I can't make sense of this. So that's kind of what's going on in here. As parents, I think it's really important to figure out how to deal with your fear so that you can create a sense of safety for your children. So from a very technical perspective, more likely than not, at least in the short term, even though there are protests and there are a lot of very loud, scary voices, there's no real physical danger at this point associated with these protests. So the first thing to do is to say to yourself, if you can, and to your children, I know this seems really scary. It's very loud, it's very hateful, it's very hurtful, but I'm not actually in danger. And it's really important to be able to say that to yourself so that you can say that to your children. If you are struggling to be able to say that to yourself, meaning no matter what you say, you find that you can't stop thinking about this and you can't stop being afraid, and you can't stop worrying every day that something bad is going to happen, well, then you need to speak to somebody. And from going from sort of being able to manage on your own to knowing when to speak to a therapist, and let's forget medication for a second, that's sort of further down, is how much is my fear impacting my functioning? And if my fear about whatever's going on, and right now the fear is being provoked by these protests and by reading in the newspaper and feeling that, the world, so to speak, is turning against us, if that fear is being provoked and it's starting to impact your ability to function, you're not sleeping, you're not eating, you're having trouble paying attention to what's going on with your kids, you're becoming more irritable, you're short-tempered because of it, it's consuming your thoughts, anything along that spectrum, that's a sign that you should be speaking to somebody. And again, it doesn't mean that you have a diagnosis. It means that you're struggling with something, that you're very fearful and worried about something, that you're having an anxiety response that's starting to have negative ramifications for your life. Why is it important for you to speak to somebody? Because you can't create a safe environment for your children, which is what they need, if you yourself are so worried. So that's number one. In terms of then the second step, how do you create a safe environment for your children? So children need to feel love, and they need to feel that things are going to be okay, and they need to feel that their parents are going to take care of them along that order. Importantly, in order to do that, in order to provide that sort of safe space and support for your children, I want to reiterate, you need to talk to them. This is a lost art a little bit. Unfortunately, a lot of parents these days don't really take the time to sit down with their kids and talk to them. I would say, if I could just sort of push Orthodox Judaism for a second, we are given a gift of Shabbos. Every week, you have an opportunity to at least have 2, if not 3 meals with your children where they sit without phones, without the television, without distractions, and you can actually talk to them. It's a gift that Hashem has given our community. Take advantage of it. Talk to your children. Don't assume what's going on inside their heads. Trust me, whatever you assume is probably not on point. Certainly try not to project your feelings onto them. That's only going to make you more worried because they may or may not reflect what you're feeling back to you. Talk to them. Take advantage of the gift of Shabbat dinner, Shabbat lunch, of Shabbat Sudot, and talk to your children. Ask them how they're feeling. Find out what exactly is going on. Find out what they're seeing. Find out what they're thinking. Find out what their friends are saying to them. As a parent, that is the most important intervention you can do. Because not only will you now know actually what's going on inside your child's head and inside their life, but your children will know that they can talk to you and that they can come to you if, in fact, they do start feeling worried. And with that knowledge, then you can help them. And in the same way that if anxiety is leading to functional impairment in you as the parent, that you should then speak to somebody. If your child starts to show you that they're experiencing functional impairments in their own life because of the worry, they're not sleeping, they're having nightmares, they're having trouble at school, they're becoming more socially isolated, etc., bring them to talk to somebody. Oftentimes, it's just a few sessions. But again, it'll give your child a feeling of agency because they will then be able to speak about it. They'll learn tools to help manage how they're feeling. All in all, if you can get yourself to actually have real conversations with your children and then respond to what your children are saying, you will not only help them in this moment with this very, very, very difficult situation, you will give them the strength and resilience and support to have very, very functional lives as adults.